Hi, my name is Jessica Janowski, and I'm presenting today Stories to Serenity. I am the trauma-informed care specialist in the Elmira City School District in Elmira, New York. I came out of the classroom to do this job because I have education in trauma-informed strategies. I am a registered yoga teacher as well as a registered children's yoga teacher. I have a registered children's yoga school through Yoga Alliance, which means I am able to train other people that would like to be children's yoga teachers to do so through my program called Yoga Magic. And Yoga Magic is also a business after school hours where I try to work with other people, organizations, school districts, and teach them the things that I've come up with within my program. So my program is all about using yoga and mindfulness, breathing activities, and social emotional learning to help children feel calmer, feel more confident, feel more connected, so building relationships, and helps them self-regulate for when they are feeling upset and frustrated, angry, that they're not lashing out, that they're not creating problems, but they can identify those emotions and then use the strategies that we teach throughout the program to help them calm down. So Stories to Serenity is really how to take regular children's books instead of just the mindfulness ones or just the yoga ones, but to take any book and learn how to bring some social emotional tasks with it or follow up with it so that you can use any book to really springboard that social and personal emotional intelligence with kids. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started on our first book. I'm using a document camera so you can follow along as I read the first book, The Peace Book by Todd Parr. Peace is making new friends. Peace is keeping the water blue for all the fish. Peace is listening to different kinds of music. Peace is saying you're sorry when you hurt someone. Peace is helping your neighbor. Peace is reading all different kinds of books. Peace is thinking about someone you love. Peace is giving shoes to someone who needs them. Peace is planting a tree. Peace is sharing a meal. Peace is wearing different clothes. Peace is watching it snow. Peace is keeping the streets clean. Peace is offering a hug to a friend. Peace is everyone having a home. Peace is growing a garden. Peace is taking a nap. Peace is learning another language. Peace is having enough pizza in the world for everyone. Peace is keeping someone warm. Peace is new babies being born. Peace is being free. Peace is traveling to different places. Peace is wishing on a star. Peace is being who you are. Peace is being different, feeling good about yourself, and helping others. The world is a better place because of you. Love, Todd. Okay, now for the fun part for the Peace Book, the lessons that you could think about maybe doing. Share my screen as I put everything on a PowerPoint, really, so that you can download the PowerPoint and have access to it. Okay, so before I start running through this, I am just not going to reread the book to you, but I did take all the pictures of the pages so you would have access to that in a PowerPoint if you wanted to show it that way. Okay, here's where the lessons start right after the last page. So I will start the slideshow from here. Slideshow from current slide. Okay, so asking kids, what does peace look like? and then having them respond to that. And if maybe you want to have them illustrate something that looks peaceful to them. So for me, it'd probably be like a beach with the sun shining on me and turtles floating in the ocean or something. What does peace sound like? Again, giving them some voice to them. What are some sounds that sound peaceful? Birds singing, mom singing in the kitchen, whatever their ideas are. What does peace smell like? What does peace taste like? What does peace feel like? So kinesthetically, maybe somebody has a fuzzy bunny that's real soft and fun to cuddle, or, a warm blanket, or whatever it is to them is perfect. So we basically incorporated the major senses again, because when you do that, that is promoting mindfulness. All right, 1 minute meditation for what peace means to you. So in this activity, I like to use, see if I have one right here, timers, sand timers. I like sand timers. Now, if you have really little kids, you might not want to start with a 1 minute. That might be too long if they've never meditated before. If they have really squirmy little kids, maybe even 10 or 15 seconds, and you can use the second hand on a clock, or set your phone for 10 or 15 seconds and challenge them. Kids love challenges. Can you sit perfectly still and silent? So that's the rule. My only rule for meditation with kids is they must sit still and they must sit silently. Kids are, you really have to kind of go through this with them a little bit, because sometimes they think just because they're not being verbal that they're silent. So if they're tapping or moving around and making noise, that is not silent. So I always do this fun little exercise. Tell me if I'm being silent, and they'll be like, no. So they kind of get it when you go through with them like that. Tell me if I'm being still. I'm on a yoga ball right now, so that's why I'm bouncing so easily. And, I'll be like, no, am I being still? So I do a little of what it is not. And then I ask them to think about whatever the meditation practice is. In this instance, we're asking them to think about what peace means to them. They might reiterate the things they already talked about, being at the beach or being in the kitchen with mom when she's in a good mood singing, or they might, and that's fine. I like the timer because it helps give a visual for them. So a sand timer, this is a 1 minute one. And then I also always invite them to close their eyes. So we'll keep going though. Maybe you want to go back to this later and practice it yourself. So after the meditation, you might want to ask students to finish this sentence. Peace is, and then they've already meditated that. So they actually already have their answer, which is a great way to get kids to think more deeply and to answer with more expression and more detail if you give them that wait time to think about things first. If they're older, they can write their answers. If they're younger, they can articulate their answers and then you scribe it for them. And then they should all illustrate whatever it is, because even if they're not that great at it, I love kid art, don't you? It's so awesome. So hopefully they have enough room for an illustration. And then you can put them all together and you can make a little class book. But as a parent, I always loved seeing all my son's things come home. So make a copy, give the original to the parents and make the copies and put them together in the book, and the kids can go back through them all the time. That's really awesome. Okay. So here's a big peace sign that you can, if you download this and print this whole PowerPoint out, you just can take it and cut it out and then make a bigger copy from there. But remind students that we can behave in a way that promotes peace. So we act peacefully. ask students to think back into the book and think about the things that the author said we could do, the action or the verbs, be peaceful. Again, you're promoting a sense of understanding and kind of connecting that academics here with them. Giving shoes to somebody who needs them. So the giving of the shoes, that's the action that is peaceful. Or you can have kids color the peace sign and write or say what being peaceful means to them. Now here's this next slide. I love this. So this was a 3rd grade student from Parley Coburn, the school where I taught at before my new job, okay? I'm district-wide now, but I was just at Coburn running my yoga and mindfulness program a few years ago. So Braylon wrote, I feel peaceful when no one is showing hate. Oh my gosh, I had to have this. I copied it and I just made copies because this is like, yeah, that's when we feel peaceful, right? It's so true. All right, this one is fun. You can trace their hands and you can ask them to think about 5 things one for each finger, or maybe you want to go 6 things in the palm, whatever, that mean the same thing as being peaceful, or words that remind them of being peaceful and having peace. And then write it on there for them, or if they're older and they can do it themselves, or maybe you want to glue down the thumb and the ring finger and the pinky finger so that the longest finger and the pointer finger are up and making the peace sign yourself. So those are 2 different ideas you can do after tracing the hand. Peace treaty. So if you have older kids, maybe you want to even talk about what peace treaties were and how they came about. But the whole point of a peace treaty is that we agree to treat each other peacefully. So I had one. Hopefully you can see it. I made a peace sign and we talked about what peace looks like, what it sounds like, and what it feels like for in the classroom, because that was the most applicable. And then we called it the treatment agreement, a peace treaty treatment agreement. And so, have the kids come up with the ways, the things that they want to see in the classroom or in the setting that you're in that promote peace, the way people should be treating each other peacefully. And then you do have to have a discussion, though, if somebody violates the peace treaty, if somebody hurts your feelings, or if you hurt somebody else's feelings, what are some things to do to make it right? So a restorative practice here. So if someone calls a mean name, really, we need to encourage kids to own it and make it right and apologize. If someone feels out of control, you can teach them how to take a deep breath. So I love the STAR breath. STAR stands for stop. Take a deep breath. And that's your pause, relax, and release. So that's the STAR breath. I really borrowed it from Dr. Becky Bailey's Conscious Discipline. If you're familiar with that, I tweaked it because hers is smile, take a deep breath, and release. And I don't think smiling is very appropriate when you're super frustrated. It just feels fake. I don't like fake. So, but stop. Like, I'm feeling frustrated. Let me stop. Let me get it together here. And I can do that with my breath. So that's what I teach kids. And then if, somebody's feeling sad, we could teach them things like, I am enough. I can handle this. I'm going to get through this difficult situation. So constantly teaching positive affirmations. And so that's the end of my ideas. And I'm sure you can come up with a whole bunch more for this book. So I hope you enjoy these activities and are able to do some of these with your class and tweak them, any way that feels like it would work for you and your students. The next book is Splat the Cat by Rob Scotton. It was early in the morning, and Splat was wide awake. Today was his first day at cat school, and his tail wiggled wildly with worry. If I hide from the day, maybe it'll go away, he thought. It didn't go away. Time to get up, said his mom. Time to get dressed, said his mom. I don't have any clean socks, Mom. Maybe I should go to school tomorrow instead, said Splat. You don't wear socks, said his mom. I'm having a bad hair day, Mom. Maybe I should go to school tomorrow instead, said Splat. His mom combed his hair. Perfect, she said. Don't forget your lunchbox, said his mom. I'll need a friend today, thought Splat. And he dropped his pet mouse, Seymour, into his lunchbox. Time to go, said his mom. The front door won't let me out, Mom. The gate won't let go of my fingers, Mom. The lamppost won't get out of my way, Mom. Mom! You can ride your bike if you like, Splat, said his mom. So he did, but he didn't say a single word. Welcome to cat school, said a big round cat. I'm Mrs. Wimpy Dimple, your teacher. Splat's mom gave him a hug. I'll be back soon, she said. You'll be fine. Everyone, this is Splat. Let's welcome him into our class, said Mrs. Wimpy Dimple. Hi, Splat! Mrs. Wimpy Dimple began. Cats are amazing, she said. We're clever, cunning, and quick. Cats climb trees, drink milk, and chase mice, she continued. Am I amazing too? Asked Splat. Yes, you too, said Mrs. Wimpy Dimple. Why do we chase mice? Asked Splat. It's what we do, replied Mrs. Wimpy Dimple. Why? Asked Splat. Because. Why? Mrs. Wimpy Dimple sighed. Lunchtime, she announced. Splat opened his lunchbox. Mouse! The cats did what cats do. Seymour hid behind a glass bottle, and when the cats saw his face through the glass, they screamed, ah! And ran away. Seymour did what all mice want to do. Stop! Cried Splat. Splat! They didn't stop. Enough, Mrs. Wimpy Dimple said, and it ended. It's milk time. Hooray! But the door to the milk cupboard was stuck. No milk today, announced Mrs. Wimpy Dimple. Aww. Splat whispered into Seymour's ear. Seymour nodded, and then, a moment later, the door swung open. Yum! Mrs. Wimpy Dimple wrote again on the chalkboard. Cats don't chase mice. Hooray! Cheered the cat class. Soon, it was home time. Splat's mom returned and gave him a hug. I've got lots of friends. Cats don't chase mice. I'm amazing. It was early the next morning, and Splat was wide awake. Today was his second day at cat school, and his tail wiggled wildly with excitement. Page. So on the very first page of the text, what does being worried feel like in your body? So you're asking this of kids. What does it feel like in your brain? How can you tell if someone else is worried? So these are great questions because you're asking them to really be mindful of their own bodies. And kids, really young kids, might not know how to express this. But by having conversations and by you offering what it feels like for you, you will start to make some connections for them. And then the part about how do you know if somebody else is worried, that's really a great lesson in being having empathy and being compassionate and really starting to bring their awareness, not just within themselves, but We want to build them up socially and emotionally. Okay, so this is a great question to start for that. What is Splat doing and why? So here you can talk about, have you ever had to go somewhere you didn't want to go or do something you didn't want to do? What's that like? Those kinds of things. How was Splat greeted at school and what are your clues? This is a great one because you might want to talk to kids about how they feel at school and if they feel welcomed, if they feel appreciated, if they feel valued. And if kids are seeming like they don't like school or daycare and they don't feel connected to anybody or cared for, then it's really a time to look at what is happening, what are the dynamics, and how can you improve it. We want everybody to be safe and happy because kids that aren't feeling safe and happy are not going to be learning. How is Splat feeling now and why? So she's talking about how cats chase mice, and we can have discussions about how when we care about other people, we get worried for them. Okay, so what reaction do the other cats have seeing Seymour? So, the facial expressions I think are great here, and you can talk about why. And then this part I really like, it's down here, it's not as obvious. Take a moment to explain this whole scenario here. Seymour feels scared, but when he hides behind the glass jar, it magnifies his facial expression. To the other cats, it looks or appears as though he is very angry instead. So this is a great thing to talk about because you can feel one way, but other people can perceive it as something else. And so we can talk about that. Maybe somebody is feeling sad, but they might look to us like they're mad. So having conversations with kids and really helping them identify how they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. Emotional intelligence is so important. And when kids learn to regulate their emotions through breathing activities, through meditation, through yoga, those are the things that I emphasize, and through mindfulness, then really they're able to self-regulate better and control their emotions better. That means less behavior problems for you and more connected community. So it's really important. How is this bike ride home different than the bike ride to school? So talking about what changed. And even in the course of the day, right, our moods can change. Why is Splat feeling excited today? Notice how his tail wiggled wildly when he was worried and when he was excited. Does your body ever react to the same way, even though you might be feeling opposite emotions? So let's think about that one for a second. If you are really excited, maybe your body is reacting a certain way. And if you're really nervous, maybe your body is reacting the same exact way, but you're feeling completely different. So I have a couple of lessons that you can read through in the PowerPoint that will be provided, but I want to showcase a lesson that I did with third graders at Parley Coburn called Gallery Walk with Splat the Cat. So to do that, I will go to share screen. Oh, yeah, share screen, okay. It's working, it's being slow. There we go. Okay, and I gotta make it bigger. And so this is a lesson I did with third graders a couple of years ago, but it's all on Splat the Cat and something that you can do with that called the Gallery Walk. Good morning, Mrs. Coldiron's class. Good morning. So we just finished reading Splat the Cat. And as you can see, all around the perimeter, which means the outside walls of our room, there are pictures of different characters from Splat the Cat. We have just cut out our feeling words. So you're going to do a gallery walk today, but the way you're going to do it is very specific. We're going to kind of turn it into a game. So, Mr. Nask that matches the word that I say, and you're going to glue it there. Now, some of you might choose different pictures. Is that going to be okay? Yeah. Yes, because some of the feeling words are very similar. They're called synonyms. Words that mean the same thing or very, very close, like worried. If you feel worried, what does your face look like? And then anxious. If you feel anxious, what does your face look like? So they're very, very similar words. So I don't want you to yell at each other or to say anything if somebody puts their word on a paper other than the picture that you think. You're just going to let them do that, okay? Because that's what they think. And we'll go over it later at a different time. So, are you ready to play? Yeah. As soon as you're done with your one word, you come back to your mat so I can give you a new word and a new movement. All right, here we go. Find your word that says scared. Scared. All right, how do you think we're going to spell scared? Yes. S-C-A-R-E-D. That's excellent. So find the one that says S-C-A-R-E-D. All right, once you have it, put your glue on it. Now listen, you're going to hop on one foot. You're going to look at all the pictures. Once you find the picture of a cat that looks scared, put it on the big paper somewhere. Do you have a question? Right, it's a cat or a mouse. You're right, because there was a mouse in the story. Okay, what's your question? Yes, grab your glue. What's your question? You can't get your glue down. Okay, everybody ready? Once you have your glue on your paper, hop on one foot and do the gallery walk to scare. Hop on one foot. Okay, I'm going to go. And then come back. Good job. There's 10 pictures. That's awesome. Good job. Sit back down and get ready to go once you're done. Once you found Okay, so that was a really fun lesson. So they're paying attention to what they think a facial expression would look like for certain emotions. Now, even in the PowerPoint, when I give modifications. So if your kids aren't readers yet, which if you have really young kids, they're probably not going to be readers, they don't have to read words. You can just say them and they can listen. So, you have to use your best judgment of what your kids are able to do and take the things that I'm providing you and modify them, tweak them to meet your kids' needs. Okay, our last book is a nonfiction book, and I chose frogs because I have a lot of fun social emotional learning and mindfulness lessons we can do based on frogs. And it's really nice because kids love to learn about animals, so you can even use nonfiction stories to promote social emotional learning and mindfulness. Frogs by Nick Bishop. There are more than 5,000 different kinds of frogs. Scientists are discovering new ones every year. Some frogs look like moss. Others are see-through. A few frogs even glide through the air. Frogs have large eyes, long back legs, and amazing, damp, stretchy skin. They do not drink like you do. They absorb water through their skin instead. Frogs can breathe through their skin too, but only if their skin stays moist. That is why most frogs live in rainy or damp places. Like other toads, spadefoot toads are a kind of frog. They stay damp by spending much of their lives underground. They come to the surface after it rains. Red-eyed tree frogs live in rainforest trees. They have special suckers on their toes that cling to leaves. Bullfrogs and many other kinds of frogs live near ponds. You will hear them calling to their mates in spring. They lay their eggs in ponds too. These eggs hatch into tadpoles, which eat tiny plants and animals. As a tadpole gets older, it grows legs and its tail disappears. One day, the baby frog is ready to hop out of the pond. Frogs love to eat. Their large eyes spot anything that moves. Then they snap it up with their sticky tongue. Most frogs eat insects, but horned frog eats almost anything it can fit its big mouth. It even eats mice. Frogs are always watching out for danger. Birds, snakes, and even other frogs may eat them. Dart poison frogs stay safe because they have toxic skin. Predators leave them alone. Many other frogs keep very still and hope not to be noticed. Even if they are spotted, they can leap to safety. If a frog stays safe, it may live several years. Okay, so this is a fun part we can do when we are talking about frogs. And so I've got some different kinds of things for you today. Okay, now for the fun part. What kinds of lessons can you do with frogs, and especially the nonfiction information that you have with frogs? First of all, the book can mention that most frogs can sit still for a really long time. So we want to encourage that actually for children, because our lives are always so busy, that if we can learn to increase our stamina for sitting still, we can better learn to calm down and let things settle down so that we make better decisions. And it's even important for little kids. So we're trying to be less reactionary, and we're trying to be able to engage that prefrontal cortex where our thinking and our logic and our problem solving comes in. And yes, this is going to be harder for kids because developmentally, that area, the prefrontal cortex, the brain doesn't actually develop till they're 25 or 30. So that's a really interesting fact about the brain. But that doesn't mean that we can't start training them towards that. Okay, these activities are super fun. I love it. First of all, what you can do is you can tell them, like, set a timer. Let's try to sit still like a frog for 10 seconds. Now, when I teach children to sit still, I always do the opposite first. Okay, if I'm sitting still, is this sitting still? No. Is this still? No. Is this still? No. So they understand when the body is moving that that's not still. So you say, okay, remember, sitting still means no body parts are moving, perfectly still. And then you have to also remind them, we're going to sit silently, because if frogs are jumping around and splashing and making a lot of noise, then they're not going to be very good hunters or predators. They won't be able to catch their flies, because the flies are going to hear them and buzz off, right? They're going to fly away. So frogs should also be still and silent. Am I being silent? No. Am I being silent? No. Am I being silent? No. So then I say to them, silence means no body parts are making noise, not your mouth or anything else. So still and silent. And then you can challenge them. Let's try to sit still and silent for 10 seconds. I mean, the younger they are, and then at the end of that 10 seconds, you might maybe ring a bell or something like that, and then they can kind of relax. And you can build up their stamina by every time practicing this, you add a little more time until maybe you can even get your little ones to sit still and silent for 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. That would be so amazing. Okay, so that's one of the lessons. Practice sitting still and silent. Another thing that you might do that they absolutely love, okay, is teach them, like, well, they probably know, but frog jump. And then sometimes I throw some anatomy, little tiny pieces of anatomy in there. So I will say things like, stand up and put your heels together. And if they're really little, they might not even know what their heels are. The heels are the back of your feet with your toes apart. And then we're going to crouch way down like a frog on a lily pad. And you're going to practice mindful listening. So every time you hear this sound, which is kind of like a croak, it's a little frog musical thing that I have. So every time they hear a sound, now I just have that for fun since we're on frogs. You can use a bell, you can use a triangle, whatever you have. But every time they hear the sound that you give them, they jump. So how do you employ mindful listening? You can have them practice being in the crouch position and listening for that sound. And sometimes you make the sound really like slow, and a lot of space in between each time you do it. And then for fun, you got to do like a whole bunch in a row and get them tired towards the end. So, but they're mindfully listening and they don't jump unless they hear the sound. Okay, so a third and final, this time for me, of course you can employ lots of lessons, but a third lesson would be having them make a frog. So this is a paper plate. These eyes are from egg carton that I glued on. Just paper, construction paper, and then I cut strands, and then I kept folding it, so it kind of looks springy. And then his mouth is, at the dollar store, you can get those party favors. I chose, you get ones that make noise too, but the reason why I chose no noise is because when I'm working with a bunch of kids in classrooms, I really don't want to upset the teachers that are inviting me in to work with their kids. So some teachers get really annoyed with a lot of noise. So once the craft is built, okay, then you can practice your breathing. So you can tell them, take a slow, deep breath in, and then exhale out. And then you can play little games with it, like how long can you keep the tongue out because you're exhaling really slowly, right? And then you can speed it up too. So it can be slow, deep breaths, inhaling a slow, deep breath, exhaling out a slow, deep breath, or quicker. Kids will love this, but you can practice your breathing and calming down with this fun little craft idea that you can make for kids. So those are some ideas you can do, taking a nonfiction book on frogs and then developing social emotional learning with that and mindfulness with that. I hope you have enjoyed so much these lessons in this session. It's been a great pleasure for me. So I hope you've had fun. Thank you. Okay, so we're coming to the very end, and what we're going to be looking at is thinking about, if you take any book, how do you apply just any old book and plug it into social emotional learning and plug it into mindfulness? So I'm just going to share my screen. And you can see here, this is a template. I am a professor for a New York Center for Teacher Development, and this is my course practicing peace. this is an actual assignment that my students have to do. I work with students all over New York State and actually Pennsylvania too. They often take these courses through NYCTD. And in this course, I'm asking teachers to choose a piece of literature, and it doesn't matter whatever grade level they're teaching, but it should be applicable to their age students and to the interests of their students, or it could be part of the curriculum they have to have. And then the themes that I think lend themselves to social emotional learning and mindfulness are that of acceptance, awareness, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, generosity, gratitude, growth mindset, happiness, kindness, optimism, peace, resilience, and tolerance. And then, of course, teachers or you can choose, other ones as well, but these are the ones that I tend to kind of find mostly in a lot of books. Not that you have to fill this out, but this is just a way to think about it. So when you're reading books to children, think about the themes that are already in the book. Is the book teaching compassion? And if the book is teaching compassion, then what are some mindful activities you can do to enhance the theme of that book? So when it comes to mindfulness, there's so much out there, and I would love to teach you more, but I'm running out of time right now, and it's almost time for questions and answers. So I look forward to your questions, and if I can serve you more in any way, please let me know. Please reach out to me in an email, because I would really, really, really love working with other people and helping them connect more with kids and help kids be calmer and be more resilient, be more empowered, and best of all, to help them self-regulate so that they're compassionate people. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to your questions.